A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. This is Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka here in Lagos. And now the top stories. Nigeria's tax reform journey gets a lift at the upper chamber as two of its four critical bills get through. It's a war of actions between the Nanadi Usman-led group of the Labour Party and that of the Abure camp, with Governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, amongst others, being the first set of casualties. And troops of 6th Brigade Nigerian Army Sector 3 Operation Quell Stroke have apprehended 4 suspected terrorists and recovered several weapons in Taraba State. Welcome once again. There's been a major step forward in Nigeria's tax reform journey as the Senate has passed 2 of 4 critical tax bills, pushing forward a sweeping overhaul of the nation's tax administration system. The 2 bills, one seeking to repeal the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act and another to establish the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2025, along with the Nigeria Revenue Service Bill 2025, were passed following a clause-by-clause consideration during the Committee of the Whole and their subsequent third reading on the Senate floor. Senate President Godswill Akpabio hailed the development, calling it a transformative moment for governance and tax distribution nationwide. He further assured Nigerians that the 2 remaining bills will be finalized today, even if it requires extended sitting hours.
As lawmakers resume plenary on the second legislative day of the week, the once controversial 4 tax reform bills, which scaled second reading 6 months ago, are back on the floor. Before the commencement of the day's agenda, the Senate President announced yet another defection to the APC.
I write to formally notify the Senate through your esteemed office of my defection from the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, to the All Progressives Congress. I have come to the firm conclusion that continuing my membership with the NNPP would no longer serve the national interest nor the interests of my constituents, which I represent.
Plenary then proceeds with the submission of a report on the 4 tax reform bills, signaling that major hurdles and disputes regarding the bills have been surmounted.
We recommended that A, state governments will have 1, equality, which will carry 50% of that, population carry 20% with that, and place of consumption carry 30%.
However, some of the clauses quickly became a subject of discontent when the Senate dissolved into the Committee of the Whole.
That 3% of the total revenue collected by the service, which shall be appropriated by the National Assembly, subject to the review of the percentage from time to time.
The subject matter is all-encompassing. It involves both oil and non-oil revenue. And what will be accrued to the coffers will be more than the budget of 15, 16, 17 states of the Federation. So for that, let's reduce it to 2%.
The amendment is adopted.
The ayes have it.
Again, another clause ratifying legislative involvement in the financial approvals and VAT disbursement is debated.
I thought that once we legislate the broad terms of distribution of VAT, that is okay for us. Not to go down to determine what they do, And where how do they apply it? Based on, we are creating confusion. That's my worry.
So the objection is noted.
The lawmakers subsequently expunged the contentious clauses, including a proposal to increase the value-added tax to 10%, opting to retain the current rate at 7.5%. The Senate also introduced stringent penalties for tax-related offences, including fines for failure to register or file returns, as well as imprisonment of up to 3 years for serious violations. The Senate eventually passed 2 of the 4 major tax reform bills. The Senate agreed that the remaining 2 bills will be finalised on Wednesday.
The Senate President has now assured that any other contentious aspect of the bill will be addressed through a conference committee with the House of Representatives to ensure harmonization before the bills are transmitted to the President, Bola Tinubu, for assent. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
The crisis rocking the Labour Party appears to be deepening as the Julius Abure-led camp has announced the indefinite suspension of 6 prominent members, including the Governor of Abia State, Alex Otti, and Senators Darlington Nwokocha and Ireti Kingibe, over alleged anti-party activities. Others are Victor Famogene, Amo Obioga, and Sheyi Showumi. The party's National Executive Council says the decision followed the recommendations of a 5-man disciplinary committee set up on May the 2nd, 2025 to probe allegations of anti-party conduct. In a statement signed by the National Secretary Umar Ibrahim, the party says the suspension takes immediate effect and bars the affected members from participating in any Labour Party activity. And there's more. The Nenadi Usman-led Labour Party Caretaker Committee has set up its own panel for the investigation of Mr. Julius Abure for what it describes as his deliberate refusal to stop parading himself as the national chairman of the party and using the party as his personal enterprise to pursue his selfish ambitions. Senator Usman, who briefed the press in Abuja, says Mr. Abure, who should have used his office to unify the party, is using the office for personal gain and enrichment. The Caretaker Committee has now instructed Mr. Abure to appear before its disciplinary committee immediately to answer pressing questions on various allegations and petitions leveled against him. The Caretaker Committee says, unlike Mr. Abure, who hijacked the party for personal ambition without due process of ward, local government, state and zonal congresses before a national convention to elect national executives, they are set to follow this due process with a timetable to be released soon.
Pursuant to the powers vested in the National Executive Council under Article 19 of the Labour Party Constitution 1999, as amended, and in response to grave allegations bordering on corruption, financial misappropriation, and anti-party activities leveled against the erstwhile national chairman, Barrister Julius Abure, the leadership of the party hereby constitutes a disciplinary committee to thoroughly investigate the said matters and recommend appropriate disciplinary measures. The composition. Number 1, Senator Ireti Kingibe, the chairman. 2, High Chief Peter Ame, Secretary, cum member. Honorable Okejo Onuaka Lucy, member. Ibrahim Abdul Karim, member. Mrs. Maria Lebeke, who was a one-time acting chairman, national chairman of the Labour Party, is also a member. Terms of reference. The committee is hereby mandated to 1. Investigate all allegations of corruption, financial misappropriation, abuse of office, and anti-party activities leveled against Barrister Julius Abure during his tenure as national chairman.
And now let's touch on security. Troops of 6th Brigade, Nigerian Army, Sector 3, Operation Whale-Stroke, have apprehended 4 suspected terrorists and recovered a cache of weapons and ammunition in the Tau General area of Ardokola local government area of Taraba State. The operation is sequel to a distress call regarding the movement of armed men into the area, which made troops respond swiftly, deploying tactically to the location and leading to the successful arrests of the 4 suspects, 3 of whom were found in possession of firearms. A press statement issued by the Acting Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, 6th Brigade, Nigerian Army, Captain Olubodundeoni, says items recovered from the suspects include 2 pump-action rifles, 1 locally fabricated gun, 3 cutlasses, 42 cartridges, 4 mobile phones, and 1 national identity card. Preliminary investigations revealed that the suspects were allegedly invited by one Alhaji Ardosani, whose role is currently under further scrutiny. The Commander, 6th Brigade, Sector 3, OPWS, Brigadier General Kinsley Chidebere Uwa, commended the troops for their swift response and professionalism during the operation. He reaffirmed the brigade's commitment to ensuring the safety and security of lives and property within Taraba State and environs. Members of the public are by this encouraged to continue providing timely and credible information to aid ongoing operations and enhance security across the state. And this is still Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. We must interrupt our regular programming at this point to bring you a live broadcast of the scheduled state visit of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Tinubu, to Anambra State. So we're going live now to Awka, the capital, precisely for that live broadcast. However, our other programming continues on other platforms. The scheduled state visit to Anambra will go on our DSTV platform. And let's expand on this security conversation. And joining us now for more on this is security expert Captain Bishop Johnson. Captain Johnson, it's very good to have you on Lunchtime Politics.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
So it appears a mixed bag of some progress and, of course, that very big concern about insecurity, particularly in the north and pushing to the north central. So let's begin with the good. The police has announced the arrest of an international crime syndicate involved in trafficking and robbery. What are your thoughts on this? And speak to why this vibrance is particularly missing in tackling domestic crime.
Okay, well, let me begin by first and foremost commending the police for the arrest that they have made. Every time an arrest is made, it's an opportunity for us to get a trove of information, speak to those who are directly involved, take them off the street, so that way they don't have the opportunity to commit further crimes. Having said that, for us to address the issue of insecurity, we've been talking about this for over a decade. We need a holistic, multifaceted approach to deal with insecurity in Nigeria. We are fighting insecurity in a haphazard way. One crime here, we arrest the people, and that crime there, we arrest them. But we are not doing the hard lifting of trying to curtail crime permanently. We're not going to have a crime-free society, but there's a tolerable level of criminality that exists in every society, including ours. So what we have right now is an intolerable level of crimes and violence, whether we call them bandits or kidnappers or armed robbers or terrorists. The level of insecurity in the country for a while now, over a decade now, is not tolerable and is affecting every facet of our lives, including our economic and political, socio-political lives. So it means the haphazard nature and strategy we have been adopting is not good enough. So we have to do heavy lifting, look at it from various perspectives, various angles. had the armed forces themselves say, look, the problem of Nigeria cannot be solved by only kinetic measures. We have to adopt some non-kinetic measures, which include governance. But I must add as well, look, so long as our borders remain porous as they are right now, we will continue to run the circle. When someone is sick and you don't know what exactly is the cause of the sickness, you're suspecting malaria, you're suspecting typhoid fever, the best thing is to start from the smallest, right? You eliminate whatever it is, whether it's hunger, malaria, or you get to typhoid. So let us secure our borders. Stop criminals from pouring into our country, whether they are herdsmen or terrorists. By the time we isolate our country from all these external criminal influences, we will now determine what are the criminal activities that are inherent in our country, the ones that are internal. And then we'll go after those internal criminals. But what is happening in Nigeria is that our borders are porous, they are open, people are pouring in from everywhere, and they are joining hands with internal criminals we have within the country to continue to ferment trouble in the country. If we don't tackle border security and border management, next external criminals and terrorists, and we continue to approach it the way we are doing it now, we continue to go in circle. We're going in this circle for over a decade. That is not the best way for us to deal with insecurity in our country.
All right, you talked about non-kinetic measures. Some would say that the gains of that are long-term, but what would be critical is immediate response. Speaking of which, the National Assembly debated on this just 2 days ago, and there were propositions to the holding of another National Security Summit, and that, was a divisive subject matter on the floor, and it emerged that there hasn't been a deployment of the Super Tucano jet for the fight against counterterrorism in recent times, and that's a revelation considering how that was touted to tackle insecurity and the amount deployed to that. How does this come to you, Captain Johnson? And what are we missing without the deployment of the Super Tucano jet, especially now that there's carnage on the plateau, there are countless attacks in Benue State, and there is continuing fight against continuing attacks in the Northeast?
Well, it's a good thing that we have the Super Tucano jets. That's enhancing the capacity of our Air Force. But that is just one element of what the military needs or security agents. But most times we talk about just the military. The police is also part of this equation. And if you ask, most of the insecurity within the country, is within falls more within the realms of the police than the armed forces. Right? We have to do normal police. We have to do policing, thorough policing work that it is done in other places. The armed forces is best when you have a conventional warfare in which the enemy is known and there is a defined war front or front line. This is where those Super Tucano jets that you guys are talking about are going to be effective. The jets, whether they are using them or not, is not going to be effective on a set of criminals that crosses through the boundary. You have no intelligence of who they are. Sometimes they are even embedded in the society.
Pardon me, Captain Bish.
Just the civilian population.
If I may come in there, it's not in use right now because according to the Senate, Nigeria signed an agreement to limit its operations. So that's the concern. If it's not being used right now, what are we missing out considering the capacity of the Super Tucano jet?
I understand. I understand it's not in use. And I don't agree that it shouldn't be in use. It should be in use when we identify the criminals and, they are in places where the technologies can be effective. The technologies can be effective if the people you're looking for are embedded in the civil population. You're not going to bomb everybody. Okay? So I don't have any issues with us using them. But what I'm saying is that it's just one element. There are just so many other things that needs to be deployed for us to have a safer society. And much of it is all about lack of governance. And when I say lack of governance, it's not necessarily at the national level with the federal government. I think that the federal government is doing enough Where we are missing it is at the sub-national level with the various state governments and the local governments that are not effective. Local governments have pretty much been hijacked, and these are the people that are closest to the people to provide governance for them. But the local government is missing, completely missing, because they have been hijacked by the state. And so they are not providing governance at that level. And if you look at all of the insecurity that we're having, they emanate from the rural areas. Most of these rural areas are areas that are very much ungoverned. And they are ungoverned because the local government areas, councils that are supposed to be taking care of governance in those areas have been kwashiorkored. All right, they have been rendered useless by the various state governments. So we have to get our local government structures to start functioning and begin to provide governance to the rural dwellers. When we tackle that and we secure our borders, which is why I said it requires both kinetic and non-kinetic measures. Look, the military is not going to provide governance for the people. And the military bombardment, whether you call it use of the Kano or whatever fighter jet you want to use, F-18, whatever, they cannot replace governance. There must be governance. I follow the debate at the National Assembly. Look, our problem is not security summit. We have had enough of those security summits. Those security summits are nothing but a talking shows where people go to speak grammar and make noise. At the end of the day, none of the resolutions or communiques that come out of those security summits get deployed. If we are going to have a security summit in which we are going to articulate the problems of this country, security problems of this country, which have, by the way, have already been articulated, and we will come up with a blueprint, actionable steps that must take place for us to reduce insecurity. I'm up for that security summit. But if it's going to be like any other security summit that they have been having in this country, which after the security summit, nothing happens, right? It's a waste of the taxpayers' money, and I don't think we need it at this time.
And we hope that when next we converge to speak on this subject, there'll be progress reports. We must thank you very much, Captain Bishop Johnson, security expert, for your time on the program.
And thank you for having me.
And there's more. The All Progressives Congress, APC, in Lagos on Wednesday held its stakeholder meeting to discuss ahead of the local government primary elections for the local government elections scheduled for July. Present at the event are the Deputy Governor of the state, Kadri Hamzat, APC Lagos State Chairman, Mr. Cornelius Ojelabi, former Deputy Governor of Lagos, Mrs. Idiat Adebule, Senator Idiat Adebule, Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Mudashiru Obasa, amongst others. And the APC State Chairman, Cornelius Ojelabi, welcomed all stakeholders, aspirants and members as he sues for unity in achieving a seamless election and primaries.
The focus of our meeting is to appeal to all of us that this is our party. This is the party that has been ruling in Lagos State since 1999. It beckoned on all of us to continue to tolerate one another, to live in peace and harmony, realizing that the moment we are ready to work together as one family under the same umbrella, definitely we'll be able to have a very, very seamless primaries across the states. You should be able to beat your chest that as a member of APC, I've been able to contribute a meaningful quota towards strengthening our party, by making sure that we engage one another, by making sure that we allow peace to reign, by ensuring that unity is the focus of whatever we are doing regarding this local government election.
And with that, you have been served your lunchtime politics for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with more. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.